That really helped. World tour. We're looking at Africa. It's disappointing that we're spending so little time on such a huge continent. To recap, there's 54 countries, 14,000 languages, and a vast wealth of history, evidence of hot and cold running water, and democracy, as well as matriarchy, uh, many centuries before our European ancestors started looking at things like that. Uh, the and that for whatever reason I remember too, in Module 4, there's a Metropolitan Museum of Art link that I sent everybody to. Nicole, did it work for you when you were doing Module 4?
Yeah, it took me there.
Okay, because I just found out this last week that it stopped working. So for anybody listening to this recording and you haven't done Module 4, do the best you
Oh,
can without using that link. And I will try to find an alternate link. But if I don't, when you get to that part of the module, don't worry about it. Just do everything else. And just remind me in the uh, notes of your submission that that link wasn't working. All right. So it would be completely unfair for me to ding anybody for not being able to access a link that wasn't working. I was mentioning that the rest of the world, traditionally, textile arts and weaving were the purview of the matriarchs, the women. And what is interesting about the art form that we're looking at today, this week from the continent of Africa, is that the people that are the driving force behind this weaving are the men. This what we're looking at is kente cloth, and it comes from the country of Ghana, which is one of the 9 or 10 present day countries that used to make up the Mali Empire, where the Lion King was from. Lion King was the one who formed it. His name was Sundiata Keita. What is fascinating about the kente cloth is that when you look at it, I don't know, Nicole, if you got a chance to look at this portion of the module, but the kente cloth is fascinating to me because there are 9 or 10 different colors. Those colors each have specific meanings, and the designs that you can come up with, they're very geometric. They repeat, and you can come up with several different designs and put those as blocks into a larger design. You can repeat them, you can rotate them around, but the thing that I think is kind of cool is that even though there's all this color and geometric shapes, it tells a story, and it can say something very specific from for the family that it was made for, from the family it was made for, or by the person who's weaving it, by the man who's weaving it. And what you're going to be doing for this assignment is just doing a short survey of kente cloth pattern ideas and coming up with your own. Look at the colors that are there and think of the potential meaning for you. And then you're going to be creating your own uh, example of kente cloth. But what you're doing is making it uniquely yours from your own experience, using those colors and those designs that you find to tell your story. Uh, when I was doing this, at the very top, I give of this portion of the module, I give 4 different examples of kente cloth design blocks. And then you can scroll down a little bit and see the colors and their meanings. You know, which colors are most important to you. And then for the assignment, what you're going to be doing is, like I said, do some research. And I suggest spending a half an hour, look up phrases like how to make kente cloth designs, kente cloth design meaning, design your own kente cloth, etc. And kente is spelled Kente, and you can see that right in the directions for this exercise. What I plugged in was the phrase make your own kente cloth designs. And on the first page, I was using, what's it, DuckDuck Go, I believe. And on the first page, it showed a link to a Pinterest page that is used by teachers to teach about Kente cloth in the US. And what was so cool about that is that they had 20 different examples of very simple blocks that each had a specific meaning. And so, what I would like you to do is do your own search, find something like that that shows how to make Kente cloth designs, and draw or sketch 3 different design blocks in squares that are simple, that fit those parameters, but that they have a meaning that's specific to you. So the first step is to do some research. Second step is to design them. In that design, look at the Kente colors and their meanings in the chart as well. And I think in the directions I say chart below, but it's actually chart above. So I will make that correction as soon as we get off the call here. And after you sketch that, figure it out in your sketchbook, you're going to pull out either the paints you used for the last module, or colored pencils, or colored markers, whatever you have in the house. Please try very hard not to buy any new materials. See if you can, if you don't have anything, see if you can borrow colored pencils or markers from a friend or a roommate or a family member. On a piece of paper, you are going to draw a grid of 22-inch squares. You're going to draw a large rectangle that's 8 inches wide and 10 inches tall. And then every 2 inches, you're going to draw a line down so that you have 5 rows and of 4 2-inch by 2-inch squares each. Then you're going to go to your sketchbook or your notebook, whatever you do your sketches on, and you're going to figure out how to put those Kente cloth designs that you came up with into this grid of 22-inch by 2-inch squares. And you can say you labeled your squares 1, 2, and 3. You have a grid that's 4 across and 5 down. So you can just start cycling through. Put do design 1, then design 2, then design 3, then design 1 again. Go down to the next row across, do design 2, then design 3, then design 1, then design 2 again, and just repeat that. Or you could plug these in randomly. You could put them one design in a diagonal line all across the paper, and then do parallel lines with the other 2 designs. You could alternate up and down or across, however you want to do it. But you have 20 grid squares to fill with the 3 designs that you came up with. And then use your markers or your colored pencils and color it in with the colors that you pick that have meaning to you. So when you submit this, you can put it into a Word doc or a PDF where you have an image of the design when you're all done. And then you're just going to write a little bit, 3 sentences describing the color, why you chose the colors you did, what the patterns you made mean to you, and then how the 3 blocks you initially designed transformed as you plug them into this 20 square grid. So that's pretty much the assignment. So hopefully that will help as you read through the assignment and figure it out. But when you get done, you're going to have a colorful design that is going to be reminiscent of the Kente cloth that the male weavers did in Ghana and are still doing. I mean, it's an age-old tradition that is still going on today, which I think is absolutely astounding. When there is an ancient tradition that is still active and vibrant today, I think that forms a really solid link to our ancestors and our past, and it's kind of exciting. And do you remember from last module? Even if somebody doesn't look very much like us and they're on a completely different part of the world, what is the farthest away from us that they're related? Do you remember?
I remember reading it, but I can't just pull the number off the top of my head.
Yeah, they're 50th cousins. That's as far away as we are. And most likely they're even closer. So it's kind of fun to do this tradition. And I know that we are appropriating somebody else's age-old tradition, but this is an exercise to build a design that's personally meaningful using a visual language that somebody related to us actually did develop. So they are family, even though they're on a completely different continent. And I think it'll be kind of fun to get a bit of an insight into one of these really old traditions that is still going on today. So, talking through that, does that help?
Yeah, that makes it a lot more make sense.
All right, great. And there's some good examples at the top of the page. And again, as soon as we're off this call, I will change that the little word that says below to above, because I think the colors in those things are above the directions instead of below them. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk, or the next thing I wanted to talk about that's in this module is brainstorming for our Molly project. At the end of the term, everybody will need to have made something that is personal to them, that is something that they feel the Molly Empire needed but didn't exist. And we're going to do things, whatever we make, we're going to make it so that out of either materials that we think may have existed in the Molly Empire, or we're going to make it out of materials that look like they existed in the Molly Empire. One nursing student who did this last semester made a working stethoscope out of material so it looked like it was Milanese. I mean, it looked like it was 700 years old. Very cool. Now, you're not going to need to do that for this module. What you're going to be doing is the brainstorming to help you generate an idea for that project in the future. With this brainstorming, what I want you to do is remember, I gave one of the links, or I gave a couple links to the module 4 where we talked about the Lion King or Sundiata. And I want you to revisit those and think about this. The images that you see, I want you to think about it from using the perspective of those 4 tools of artistic critique. Now, Nicole, do you remember what those 4 tools are? Or just the first one?
The analyze, describe.
Describe is the first one.
Judge.
Excellent. Yes. And analyze is the second. Excellent. And the third one is interpret. And the last one is evaluate. Excellent. Very good. So we're going to be using our critical thinking skills to look at the imagery we see from the Molly Empire and just keep that in the back of our head. And then as during the brainstorming, what I want you to do is think about what you can do, what's important to you. What kinds of things do you enjoy? What kinds of things do you do that occupy your time? And then you're going to brainstorm. And you can do this by yourself, with a roommate, with a family member, or with a slow running friend. Just brainstorm and record, write down your thoughts, scribble them, whatever you need to do. And you're going to do this for, I would suggest, maybe half an hour to an hour, something like that. I actually no, I think brainstorming, you want to do the whole process for an hour, and that will include sitting down, coming up with the ideas, maybe even doing some spontaneous research if you need to, working out the ideas, thinking through what you find out, and then sketching a couple of your ideas. So all of that you should be able to do within the short span of an hour. Do you remember when we were talking about convergent and divergent thinking and um, basically slow motion multitasking? Do you remember one of the observations that were made about brainstorming? When do the best ideas happen? Do you think it would be at the beginning of the brainstorming session or towards the end?
Probably towards the middle to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's just like priming a pump, or working out. It's can be dangerous on your muscles and joints to start exercising and working out without warming up your body. or getting into the right frame of mind, paying attention to your surroundings. And I think when you're brainstorming, once you start warming up, once you start writing down or sketching the really stupid ideas or silly ideas or ideas that you just don't are embarrassed to share with anybody, then your brain starts kicking into high gear and you start thinking about the really good ideas, the solid ones, and the ones that you think you can actually do something with. Some examples of ideas that people have brainstormed in the past is one person was very attached to a childhood home in another state like Wyoming, and they wanted to make that. Now, of course, you're not going to be making it full size, but you can do like a scale model or diorama of that house, but transforming it using materials that seemed consistent with the Mali Empire 700 years ago. Uh, so, for example, things like terracotta, are generally terracotta is that beautiful red that we see all around in the rocks in St. George. And we're not going to make this necessarily out of stuff like that, but we can do things that make it look like it's out of materials native to the Mali Empire. And that's what we're going to be going for. Another person made a model refrigerator that looked like it belonged to the Mali Empire. A person was a leather worker and made a really nice messenger bag. Somebody else was doing it wasn't Kente cloth. They were doing traditional weaving from Kenya, and they did a design that was that they thought, well, what if a Kenyan trader came to Mali? What I want to do this design, but what kind of materials would they use if they found themselves in Mali? So that kind of a thing. So really some fun ideas. We've had jewelry makers make things. Um, one person even made a cell phone cover out of something that made it look like it was materials from 700 years ago. So there's lots of different ideas that we can have. But what I want you to do after you do your brainstorming, jot down your notes. I want you to type up your notes. That will be another way of processing the information that you gained or revealed to yourself during the brainstorming. And when you submit this, you're going to submit the typed notes in a document with images or photos of the sketches that you did. And these sketches do not have to be finished by any means, just the scribbles and doodles that you're making as you were thinking through ideas. And then write in 75 words, try to work out what you think you want to build. And if that means there's 3 different things, and in that 75 words you describe, well, I can't really decide, but these are the 3 things I'm going to be thinking about to see which one I can make and why, what they mean to me, what kind of materials can I use for this project so it looks like it's Milanese. Those are the kinds of things that I'd like to see at the end of your brainstorming. So again, you're not making the project. All you're doing is brainstorming about it so you can kind of get or start figuring out what you are going to be doing. And again, like I said, it doesn't have to be one finished idea. You can have 3 different ideas that you're working on, that you're thinking about. You're not really sure of which one you want to do, or it can be one idea that's fairly well done. But I want to hear, or I want to read some of your thoughts about why you want to do this. What's the meaning to you, and how you're going to adapt it so visually it feels like it belongs to the Mali Empire. Does that kind of make sense, Nicole?
Yeah, that does.
All right, great. Now, next week we are going to be doing our super fast world tour. We are going to be looking at the Italian Renaissance, which took place, oddly enough, in Italy, and we're going to be making another project for that too, that has to do specifically with the Renaissance in Italy. And then after that, we're going to be visiting the some of the art of Iran. And but right now, as you work on this project, these 2 projects for this week, uh, as we do this, I really like to read what people are doing with their reflection of what they're finding out. And please don't get discouraged at all. We know that Africa is a huge place with many, many, many traditions, but we're just touching on it and visiting it very briefly. And so it's very difficult to encapsulate any substantial set of ideas or experiences in such a tiny sampling. But um, we're not trying to encapsulate it. We're just kind of introducing ourselves to the ideas. So I hope nobody gets discouraged. And as you're looking at this, also think about the idea. Remember, we talked about even though our ancestors did not have the same technology as us, did that make them stupid or not as smart as we are?
No.
No, absolutely not. Our ancestors were just as observant as we are. They didn't have a lot of the technology tools that we have today. And today we don't have a lot of things that they had access to. But because people are different and live in a different context, it does not mean that they're any less than us. All it means is that they're different, and that's it. So uh, I hope that you use those four steps or the four tools of artistic critique: describe, analyze, interpret, and evaluate as you go into this. And I really hope that that helps make these two exercises quite a bit easier for you. I can always, I can already see that was somebody leaving, and I was just waving at them. I can already see how people's uh, ability to articulate their observations are changing just because we're becoming aware of our own critical thinking abilities. And that's exciting to see. And that's one of the things that I hope people take away from this course is just the ability to think critically and intelligently about what you experience as an individual. I'm thinking that probably not for the Italian Renaissance, but maybe for Iran, we're going to be doing the next step in the artistic research as well. I haven't put that into the module for Iran yet, but I'm thinking that might be the next thing that uh, another thing that we do for that step. And the reason why I'm kind of breaking these projects up into chunks and spreading them out is that it's so much less stressful and a lot easier to do accomplish a big thing if you do it a little bit at a time. My dad would always say, "How do you eat an elephant?" Do you have any idea how you eat an elephant, Nicole?
No.
One bite at a time. I don't know if I'd ever want to eat an elephant, but that's what my dad would say. Well, do you have any questions about the things that we talked about today?
No, not really. It
Okay,
seems to be
good.
making sense.
Excellent. As people go through this module and watch this, if you do have questions, please revisit the module, go through each step in sequence, and see if that answers them. And if it doesn't, then email me. And if I get the same questions from several different people, I will make sure and answer it more clearly on the next Teams meeting that we have. All right, but thank you, Nicole, very much for coming in and reminding me to record the session. I really, really appreciate that because that would have been even more embarrassing otherwise. So thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, well, I will look forward to visiting with you next week, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I hope everything goes incredibly smoothly for you.
Thanks. And you too.
Thank you.